mate, you spoke about the golden rules there in organisation. That wasn't one of the questions, but I would really like. I remember we had Rob Fisher in this room, and he spoke about. I'm at an organisation where we're looking to maybe remove the golden rules and replace them with life-saving controls. Just kind of wondering what you're seeing over in the UK or around the world when it comes to life-saving rules and etc.
So I would say that Northeast Australia is leading the way in a lot of this stuff because of Griffith University that's there, and Sydney, and Lund in Sweden. Fundamentally, as an organization that has that perspective that says we are trying to protect our people, and as long as they follow these rules, then they will be safe. And they don't actually understand the conflicts and the drivers that put in place to understand that. So exactly that piece about critical controls, and somebody was working with the last couple of days, and they just come up with a matrix that talks about critical controls, non-critical controls, were they effective or non-effective? And that's how they're basically looking at adverse events to be able to present to the board. And what they want to have are critical controls that were effective. So that's their saves, their good saves that happen. And they don't, if we have these events, the controls worked and people didn't get harmed, or people didn't get harmed and material did, okay, so be it. But they want to put stuff, show that our critical controls are working. We're never going to get zero error. We're never going to get zero accidents. But what we want to do is prevent that harm that's happening. And we do that by putting controls in place. And if they're not working, your workers will know whether or not those critical controls are not working or not. So having a golden rule, so as an example, working out in the oil rigs out in Middle East, and gloves was, PPE, leave the locker room, go out in the drill floor, people got to wear gloves. Temperature is 45 centigrade at the time. So they finish their locker room talk, they go outside, and there's a little bit of a handover, and they've got a little square box that's right next to the locker room outside on the deck where they can do their handover, and they don't need to wear their PPE because they're considered in a safe zone at the stage. They're outside 45C, and they basically put their gloves in their back pocket because they're just too hot. And so I'm up in the sort of galley watching, because I'm just having lunch, and watch these guys, and they leave the safe area with their gloves in the back pocket. And the safety coach is there with me, and I'm like, and he's like, looks out and goes, yes, and he's about to run down and grab the guys for basically breach of PPE. And I'm like, hang on a minute. There is this mental process that you step across the threshold from the locker room and you should be wearing the PPE. But they've stepped across the threshold to go into a discussion piece. And now they've left the safe area and they haven't had the mental trigger that says, I now move from a safe to an unsafe space. And they finished the conversation and off they went. And they hadn't had that trigger. So, yep, golden rule, gloves, blah. And it's just like, hang on a minute. You've got to look at the context in which people are operating. They're not intentionally going out there to break those rules. And to turn around and say, pay more attention, be more careful, you are being reckless. No, not at all. There will be a reason why. And that's how we've got to explore that with that local rationality. How did it make sense? And that's, going back to the piece about communication. Steve, why did you go out there and do that? If I use the word why, I'm asking you to justify your behavior against my standard. But if I say to you, how did it make sense for you to do that? Now I can understand your rationality. And I'm moving from you as an individual to your thought process. So I don't think golden rules work.
Yeah,
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, mate. Actually, Gareth touched on that. Why does it make sense for them to do that? That's something I use where I work a lot. And I kind of feel that question is transformational. If you really start, anytime something goes wrong, I wonder why that made sense for them to do that. And we
change it how it made sense, not why. Why will invariably end up as an individual. How looks at context and actions.
There you go. A lesson for me, which is awesome.